the Shure MV7 microphone versus the Samson Q2U. It's a battle of the USB XLR hybrid microphones. If you didn't know these existed, they do. They're freaking amazing. I've got them both set up here in the studio. The MV7 is a more expensive microphone by a significant margin. And what's cool about both of these mics is that you can plug in either a USB cable or an XLR cable into them. So you can either go direct into your computer or direct into a mixer, depending on your preferences. You can even do both at the exact same time. I currently have both of these mics plugged into this computer USB, and both of these mics plugged in the mixer going to this computer through XLR, giving you the ultimate flexibility. Which microphone is better for the money? Is it worth paying hundreds for the MV7 versus under 100 for the Q2U? You'll hear a side-by-side recording comparison of both microphones during this video, with processing on and with processing off. I'm even going to show you XLR sound versus USB sound, and you can make your own decisions on which one you think is worth it. Really quick, let's go over the pros and the cons and the features and accessories. Then we'll go into that recording check. So first things first, the Shure MV7, this is it. If it looks familiar, it's because it's modeled after the most famous podcasting microphone out there, the Shure SM7B. What you see Joe Rogan using and all the big podcasters using. This is the USB XLR hybrid version of that microphone. It's great. It comes with the built-in mount, and it comes with the windscreen on the front of it, which is really, really nice for reducing pops, but it doesn't completely eliminate pops. So it's a pro and a con. It also has an onboard playback volume and mute button built into the top of the microphone right here. So you can adjust in your in-ear mix whether you hear more of yourself versus guests or gameplay, which is really cool to have right on the top of the mic. I really, really like that about it. Another cool thing about this microphone is that it has a headphone jack in the bottom. You can plug in any pair of headphones with a mini jack. And of course, the big feature we're talking about today, which is the XLR and USB jacks that work simultaneously on the microphone, which is really, really cool. And it allows both of these microphones you're listening to today to be upgraded. And what do I mean by that? The USB sound in these mics is going to be limited to whatever you can do through your USB jack, but you can upgrade the sound by running it through a high-end mixer like the one you're listening to right now, or running it through processing racks or a house sound system, etc., allowing both of these microphones to basically potentially go into endgame for you as a creator and be an upgradable setup. I love that about both of these mics. Let's talk about a few of the accessories that you may want and need for the MV7, including this stand. By the way, a link to all of this gear, affiliate links are in the description below. And I need to disclose to you that Samson gave me the Q2U for free 2 years ago. But I bought the Shure MV7 myself. Not a sponsored video, but they did give me that mic for free 2 years ago, just letting you know. Okay, this gator stand is the one that I'm using right here in the studio. And what's cool about this gator stand for the MV7 is that it's got an XLR cable running through it built in. And so with this mic, you're ready, you're future-proof for if you ever want to run XLR on the MV7 microphone, and you can run your USB cable up it as well with some Velcros. That's what I do. And there's also a shock mount that I have in the mail on the way to me for this mic. You're going to want to consider a shock mount for this mic because let me just go ahead and knock on the desk. Let me know if you hear this. You hear the vibrations through the mic? You need a shock mount probably for this mic. If you really want to eliminate the bangs on your desk, you click in your mouse, typing on your keyboard. That accessory will help you out. Links in the description below to all those accessories for the Shure MV7. Let's talk now about the Samson Q2U. And now I'm going to switch over to the Samson Q2U on my mixer. Now you're listening to the Samson Q2U while we're talking about it and its accessories. So the Q2U is different because it's a handheld microphone. And I've talked about it before, like it's the Swiss Army knife, if you will, of mics. You can take this thing, put it on a table stand, put it in a mount like I have it on right now. You can use it for interviews if you want to. And it's got an on-off switch like a handheld microphone you'd see on stage somewhere or at a concert. Or you can use it in the studio. As you can hear right now with the processing through this mixer, it sounds freaking great. And both of these mics are dynamic mics, so you want to have this mic really close to your mouth. It's about 3 or 4 inches away from my mouth right now to maximize the audio quality. Also with this microphone, in the basic package, you're going to get a bunch of accessories that come with it, under $100 USD. It's got the windscreen, which you want to reduce those pops. It's got a table stand, the clip I'm using right here, a USB cable and an XLR cable and an extender if you use it for interviews. So it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife jack of all trades accessory kit that comes with the mic, which is really, really nice. The unique feature of the mic, just like the Shure MV7, of course, is the XLR jack on the bottom and the USB jack on the bottom. And of course, you can plug in even headphones into this little handheld mic. It's friggin' great, man, because mic has just got incredible utility for virtually every application. It is probably the most versatile mic for the money on the market by far. Also, it has a headphone volume controller at the bottom of the mic, so you can actually monitor all of the audio on your podcast or whatever, up and down the volume right there. It's great. I gotta say, overall, the Q2U for the price, probably the highest value for the dollar microphone on the market, but you'll want to consider some accessories to go with it, including the boom stand, potentially. So this is the boom stand that I would recommend for this mic. You don't want to spend too much on the boom stand and the kit. So this kit in the description below not only has the mic, but it's also got a pop filter and all the other accessories, plus a boom stand, which allows you to basically position it like I have it here in my studio. It's just a standard, relatively cheap metal boom stand. This whole kit you see on the screen right here is under $100. Pretty sick value. So the question is it worth paying more money to get the Shure MV7 versus the Samson Q2U? So let's go ahead and do a side-by-side recording test. And first you're going to hear XLR. And the mixer I'm running this through is the Rode Procaster mixer. And right now I have processing turned on for both microphones. And in a moment, I'm going to turn processing off for both microphones so you can hear how the raw XLR sounds through this mixer. Then I'm going to turn them back on. Then I'm even going to run a USB test for both of these because it's a very different sound profile, especially since one of these mics has software that comes with it. Cool. Let's do the XLR test right now. Okay, so let's turn off the processing right now in Streamlabs OBS. So noise suppression off, compressor off, limiter off. We're currently on the Samson Q2U, and now we're going to turn the processing off on this mic. So this is the Samson Q2U microphone with no processing on. This is the Samson Q2U microphone with no processing on whatsoever. I'm going to turn the processing back on so you can hear the processed audio difference when I run it through this mixer. As you can hear, this microphone sounds way more beefed up when I turn the processing on in the Rodecaster Pro mixer. And here's the processing off in the Samson Q2U. Let's compare that to the sound of the MV7 without processing. And this is the let me switch it over. This is the MV7 with no processing on. This is the Shure MV7 with no processing on. Shure MV7 with no processing. Let me turn on the processing. This is the Shure MV7 with processing on the mixer. You'll probably hear the bigger, boomier, brighter sound through this microphone now with all that processing on. It has a fuller sound than the Q2U, but you have to decide whether you think it's worth the extra money to have this bigger, fuller sound than the Q2U. Once again, we're going to turn the processing off on the Shure MV7, switching over to the Q2U. You're now listening to the Q2U with no processing on. This is the Samson Q2U with no processing on. Going to turn all that processing back on and do a final processing versus processing check. This is the Q2U with processing on. This is the Q2U with processing on, so you can hear that fully processed sound. Now let's go to the MV7 with processing on. And this is the MV7 with processing on to compare with the Q2U. This is the MV7 with processing on to compare with the Q2U. Now I want you guys to hear the USB sound of these microphones, which is very, very different. Are you ready for this? I have this set up to where the Shure MV7 has its own USB software that enhances the sound. I'll disappear it. It enhances the sound in your computer through the USB jack, whereas the Samson Q2U does not. So let's switch over to that USB sound so you can hear what that sounds like. Okay, this is the sound of the Shure MV7 microphone through the USB jack. This is the sound of the Shure MV7 through the USB jack with processing on. I'm going to compare and contrast that with the Samson Q2U through the USB jack with processing on. What processing do I have on, you may ask? Noise suppression, compressor, and limiter on both microphones. Once again, this is the Shure MV7 with full processing on. It not only has processing within OBS, it also has its processing that comes with the software over here. This is the Shure MV7 with processing on versus the Samson Q2U with processing on. Now I'm going to turn processing off on both microphones, starting with the Samson Q2U, so you can hear that comparison. Noise suppression is off, compressor is off, and limiter is off for the Samson Q2U. You are listening to the Samson Q2U with no processing. Now we're going to go to the MV7. Turning the processing off on the MV7. All right, here's the MV7 with very limited to no processing by comparison. This is the Shure MV7 with very little processing to no processing versus the Samson Q2U with very little processing to no processing. Once again, comparing back to the Shure MV7 with very little processing to no processing. All right, my friends, that is our microphone comparison for today. You can decide which one of these microphones you think sounded better, either through XLR or through USB. Link in the description below to all of the products and all of the bundles that I talked about today. And you guys can decide, is a USB XLR hybrid mic the way to go for you? Was that sound good enough? Do you want an upgradability in the future to go from the USB setup you have to that XLR to take it to the next level? These are my two favorite hybrid microphones that I've tested. I wanted to bring them to you today because I think it's really interesting to be able to plug your microphone into anything, basically, and have a great sound come out. That's what these two options present in two different price ranges. Happy microphone shopping, and see you in the next one.